What if your inner voice was the smartest guide you had? In today's episode, you'll hear from a licensed therapist and energy worker who teaches conscious leaders how to reconnect with their intuition and make soul-aligned decisions, especially when life throws curveballs. She was recommended to me as the next Esther Hicks. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Hi, and welcome to the U World Order Showcase podcast, where we feature life, health, transformational coaches, and spiritual entrepreneurs stepping up to be the change they seek in the world. I'm your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist, on a mission to help coaches and entrepreneurs amplify their voice, monetize their mission, and get visible, leveraging podcasts and Substack. Today, we are chatting with Kim Beam. Kim is a licensed social worker, energy healer, tech innovator, and focused on nurturing mental wellness and spiritual insight. She empowers conscious professionals to tune into their intuition and make aligned, heart-led decisions. Kim also co-created Zen for Teens, a health tech platform designed to support young people with accessible tools that boost mindfulness, emotional resilience, and overall well-being. She is also the author of Walk in Courage, Trusting the Whisper of Your Intuition, and What Doctors Don't Tell You, One Woman's Journey Through Hodgkin's Lymphoma. Welcome to the show, Kim. I can hardly wait to chat with you.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
So,
Yes,
the big question. Are you ready?
I'm ready for your question.
Okay. What's the most significant thing, in your opinion, as individuals we can do to make an impact on how the world is going?
Howard Thurman has a quote that says, right? He says something to the effect of, don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, because what the world needs is for you to be alive, basically. And so I would say, yeah, it's one of my favorite quotes in the world. And so I mean, there's a couple of them that are like my favorite, like life kind of quotes, right? But this is basically it, like what makes me feel alive. And if it feels flopped or dead or not moving or stagnant or like the gunk at the bottom of a pond, get me the frig out of there. I want nothing to do with that. I only want to be in stuff that's light and effervescent and joyful and exuberant, ebullient even, like, right? The big fluffy bouncy words, right? And that it's staying in that energy is what we need, because the more people who are in that lighter energy, the more we're going to create that lighter energy. And there's like a whole rising fear thing going on. So the more of us that choose not to be a part of that rising fear energy and decide to be different, that go be alive, go do things that make you feel alive.
Well, this bottom line is you're not going to impact the negative stuff. It's already happening. The people that want whatever they want out of it, and it's making them all bubbly. Trust me. They don't care about us. They want the bubbly for themselves, when we could live a bubbly, effervescent life just by ignoring that. Because
Exactly. And by making a conscious choice to turn your back on that, you're making a conscious choice to turn your back on it, and then you're not giving it energy. And the more energy you don't give it, right, the more it dies. And so the less you focus on it, well, I like to say what you focus on grows. So if you want to focus on negative things, by all means, focus on negative things. You're just going to get more negative in your life. If you want to focus on like things that you want to grow something happy and positive in your life, go focus on the things that make you feel happy and positive. It doesn't mean ignoring, and it doesn't mean ostriching, right? It means being aware, but also realizing it's not your fight. If you are not Jasmine Crockett or AOC, right? Or ICE isn't standing on your yard or on your street or maybe on your block or in your neighborhood, this isn't necessarily your fight right now. You show up when you need to show up, right? You show up on the big days. You show up to the boycotts. You show up for the stuff that matters. And anything else that doesn't affect you particularly, the less you look at it, the less it'll affect you, and the more you choose to walk in love and joy. And the feelings that come out of those big parades that we've seen recently, the big parades that we've been seeing. Now, when this airs, hopefully we won't need the big parades anymore, but like, who knows where we'll be, right? The big parade that we saw in June, where there were over 12 million people, the feeling that came off of those parades was joy and excitement and love and acceptance. That's what was in the energy of those parades. And that is not the energy that is coming out of our government right now. And so if we can hold on to that which excites us and makes us feel good, doing so much better. You're just doing so much better.
Yeah, that doesn't matter what the rest of the world is doing. It's just doing what lights you up. Because really,
Exactly.
there are people out there that need your light. They
Hmm.
need you to turn your light on so they can find their way and
Exactly.
turn their own light on.
And the other thing is, if your light is not turned on, you are actually adding to the noise and you're bringing people down.
Mhm.
I've been told, because I am a conscious creator of my light, there was a day where I wasn't consciously creating my light. I was sort of like, ugh, I was bogged down in the gross. And I was like, and one of my colleagues turned to me and said, that is not like you. That is not normally who you are. I normally depend on you to be light for me. And I was like, I need to work on my attitude because it matters. It matters.
And it matters about your intuition.
It
Because
does.
without turning your light on, you're ignoring your intuition. I think your intuition and your light are integrally entwined. And without one or the other, you're not going to make the difference you're here to make. And we are all here to make a difference.
We are here. We are all here to make a difference. Yeah, we're all here to have an impact. I mean, I would also say we incarnated, anytime you incarnate into a body, right? Anytime you decide that you're going to be limited by a body in the scope of a body, anytime you do make that decision, you made a decision to learn something specific in that lifetime. There is a goal and a plan for what you're going to learn. And so I would say go find what your goal and your plan is, because that will really help you get on the path where you feel lit up. And then once you lit up, it'll feel magical, right? All of us have had a magical moment in our life where we were doing something and it just all clicked and felt like it was just easy. That's part of your purpose. Whatever it was that you fell into and you're like, God, this is really simple. That's part of your purpose. That's why chefs just love to be in a kitchen, because it lights them up. There are some chefs that are in a kitchen and it doesn't light them up. And I would say, please leave the kitchen, because that's going to get into the food. Right? But there are other people who are like, the idea of spending my day in the kitchen is torture. And that is not what lights me up. And so please don't ask me to spend my day in the kitchen. But I am so grateful for people who get lit up by the things that don't light me up. Because,
We
right?
don't have to all be good at everything.
No.
And we
And
need to
so
start appreciating everybody's gifts for what they are. We shouldn't say a chef is not as on the same level as maybe somebody that knows how to put bones back together. They're just different. They're
they are
not better
not better.
or worse. The
No.
person that understands intuitively, they walk into a room and they know how the furniture should be arranged and what pictures should be on your walls. That's a gift.
It is a gift.
And it's just as valid as that person that can take, 5 ingredients and make a meal that you will remember for the rest of your life.
Yes.
Or someone who can do heart surgery. I think they're all, I'm taking these really different examples
Yes.
because they're so vastly different and they each have a different price tag label to them.
Label on them, right? But there are chefs. Like if we talk about Steven Starr, who's a chef who like owns restaurants in Philadelphia, right? Like there are chefs who do make as much or more than a doctor, right? But I will also say some of it comes down to programming.
A lot of it.
And so when you're standing in your kitchen at 5 years old, you are sent messages about where you are to where you're supposed to be stuck. And I would say to that programming, you're not stuck anywhere. And it doesn't matter where you're starting. It doesn't matter the age that you are. It doesn't matter where you've come from. It doesn't matter where you're going. Well, it matters where you're going, but like, you know what I mean? Like in that general, it doesn't really matter if all of a sudden you're like, I want to change directory and trajectory, and I've been doing this thing for like 4 years and I'm about to graduate and now it feels wrong. Is it really? Does it matter? Like, does it really matter?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. But we have ideas in our head that say, I now have to graduate. I've got 1 semester left. Why don't I just graduate? I got 1 year left. I'll just graduate and I'll figure it out after. But then what winds up happening is you wind up in a job with a suit on, and that's not the job that you want to be in. You wind up in an office that like sucks the life out of you with the fluorescent lighting, right? Like what makes you come alive, and please go do that.
And even if you spent a lot of money and invested a lot of time in a path, it doesn't mean you have to stay there.
And
There,
I would also say it's not wasted time either.
no, it's never wasted.
No, it's
Education is
always
never
used.
wasted. Life is never wasted. No
No,
matter what's happening to you in your life, what experiences you're having, they're all important.
they are.
We were talking before we got started here about your experience through Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Yeah, that was
Let's
a
let's
doozy. That was a
let's
doozy.
talk about that for just a second because I think that really does play into what we're discussing right now. So share your
Mhm.
stories.
So I was teaching at that time. I had tried to leave teaching and then it wasn't successful and I had a year of floundering and financial ruin. And so I went back to teaching because it was solvent and what I knew. And I was hired and I did it for 6 years, but I was probably clinically depressed and exhausted and burnt out and kind of miserable. And so I did it for 6 years, and somewhere in there, I was it was in April of 2010. I was on the phone with my best friend, had my finger in my collarbone, and I found a lump. I was just bored on the phone and stuck my fingers in my collarbone and said, I think I found a lump. And she used to work at cancer camps when she was in high school. Again, nothing is wasted. She worked in cancer camps and she said, you're going to the doctor tomorrow. And I went to the doctor tomorrow. And they called me on a Sunday and said, it's either a cancer of your thymus gland behind your breastbone or it's lymphoma. And so I went for a bunch more tests. It took about a month and a half and they diagnosed me with Hodgkin's. And then I went through treatment, which I kept telling God. At that point, I was a hardcore Christian. I had a fundamentalist stick up my ass. And I told God I didn't want to do treatment. And people were praying over me and laying hands on me. And they told me I wasn't going to have to. And the head pastor came up to me one night at a prayer night and he said he saw the word lymphoma down my back and he saw it drop off. He said it doesn't stick. He said at one another point he told me it would be like one of those speed bumps when you hit it with your car, you think your muffler dropped. He's like, it's going to be really bad, but you're going to be fine. You're going to think it's bad. And I can tell you it's bad. AVBD was the chemotherapy regime, and I still have neuropathy in my right leg and my left leg. And my trainer and I bump into problems because all of a sudden I get dead legs. I'll be like squatting 50 pounds or, squatting two 48-pound, 24-pound dumbbells, right? I'm holding two kettlebells that are 48 pounds each. No, 24 pounds each. And I'm squatting, and all of a sudden my right leg is just like, I'm sorry, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm
Fake
like,
out doesn't really exist.
it doesn't, it's just like, we're done, we're not doing this. And I was like, but you're fine. There's no reason for your nerve to be freaking out right now. You're fine. And no matter how much I tell my nerve it's fine, it wants to be pissed off. And so there are residual issues, right? But I'm alive. I'm still here. And after I came out of it, I sort of looked back and said, one, that sucked. That was terrible. And I knew it was going to suck beforehand. And I basically told God, I don't want to do chemo. And he basically said, tough shit. And then I came out on the other side and I was like, I'm not Job. And I'll cry when I say this. I'm not Job, right? I had read the Bible 3 times all the way through before I got sick. I know what that book says. I know its limits. I know its boundaries. I know it's where it's open, and I know like open and open space, like big open yes space, and I know where it's closed and big closed no spaces. And so um when I got done, I was like, I've had somebody smear my reputation. I've had a big giant house fire where I lost everything I owned. I've had these other events that have happened to me, but like Job, when God touched down and touched my body, I did not say, you are great. I looked at him and said, I'm
You
done.
suck.
I'm done. But the thing is, when I was in the church, I was on the prophetic team and I was on the prayer healing team. So people would walk up to me and I would heal their knees and I would heal their feet. I wouldn't personally, but like my hands would be a conduit that would create the healing, right? And so I also walked in the prophetic while I was there, and I learned how to hear spirit very clearly. And people trusted me. People who I got in trouble with that were pastors would come to me for words at times because they trusted to know that I was hearing correctly. And then when I got done, I was like, if I'm not listening to Jesus and I'm not listening to the Father, I am not going to disrespect the Holy Spirit and listen to this Holy Spirit and say, I'm not listening to the other two. If I'm not in the Godhead, then I'm not listening to any of you. And I cut off my intuition. And I got into a meditation program. And I started doing mindfulness-based stress reduction through UPenn. I started with UPenn. And then I studied in UMass Medical School because I was like, this is solid, and this is helping my anxiety in the way that SSRIs and prayer and church never did. And so I got myself into a meditation program, and I started to learn how to be a mindfulness-based stress reduction practitioner, how to teach people how to meditate and breathe and be with your brain, basically. And in my training, I had to do 5 and 7 day silent retreats. So I did a 7-day silent retreat at Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, New York. And somewhere in that week, they were like, can you please get back in your intuition for people? Because that's when you're alive. And I was like, but I can't because of the Godhead. And they were like, it doesn't work that way. Please just step back into your intuition for us. And I was like, do I have permission to step back in, even though I'm refusing to talk to the Father and the Son? And they said, you have more than permission. You are free. You are free to step into it. And I said, so long as I have your permission. And they said, you have our blessing. Please do it. And so I learned how to hear my intuition without tapping into the Holy Spirit. And then I found out it's all spirit. It's just all spirit, right? Doesn't matter what label you give it. It's all spirit. And so I that's the journey. So it's all come full circle. I've always been a spiritual being. I've always been seeking God. I've always been seeking more. I've always been looking for, is this really it? Is this lifetime really it? Because if this is it, this sucks. There's got to be more to this life than this. And so that's when the Hodgkins opened the door for me to have a much bigger worldview, much more compassion, much more empathy, much more love. I removed the fundamentalist stick, and I learned about the Stonewall Bar in New York City, and I had a crisis of faith over it because there was no way Jesus was going to be with the police at the Stonewall Bar. There was no way. The only place Jesus could be was inside the bar. And then the Bible says all these things about homosexuality that I was like, the book is too small. The book is too small. God is way bigger than the book. And that's when I was like, I'm done with church. I think that's the whole story. I think that's the whole story in a nutshell.
Our stories are so similar. I didn't get a disease, but
thank goodness.
Yeah.
You don't want the
apparently
disease.
I didn't need one. I had disease like my whole childhood. I had endometriosis really bad.
Oh.
It was like debilitating. And it took them like almost 30 years to diagnose it. They just didn't know what it was. I just
I just want to be like men doctors. Like, how hard can this be?
Well, in all fairness, it was a male doctor eventually who was like, oh, you have endometriosis. And I looked at him, I was like, what? I'd never heard of it before. It was before the internet. And all I knew is that I had been hospitalized at various times. I'd been told I had venereal diseases in front of my mother when I was young, and I wasn't sexually active at the time. I was just
venereal diseases. You just had your lining grow in places it's not supposed to be growing.
Yes, and I swam in swimming pools, and I think chlorine really aggravates endometriosis. Yep. Like I would swim 3 and 4 hours a day most of my childhood. So in chlorinated pools, heavily chlorinated pools. And so, it's at this point, looking back, I can say, yeah, that's what it was. But after the doctor, he thought he was just going to go in and spend 30 minutes cleaning me up. It took him like 5 hours. And he almost had to like open me up to get all the lesions cleaned out. It had closed off my fallopian tubes. It was closing off my colon. The lesions, they're like long things that tie up your intestines and your other body parts inside. It was a
Wow.
big mess. It's like,
Tons of mess.
yeah. So I do understand disease, but the whole understanding that you don't have to find salvation outside of yourself. Your intuition is that God spark that's within all of us. We
Yes.
we are God, and not in the I'm an individual God all by myself. We are God having an experience through us. And I often wonder if God doesn't isn't able to experience all of the experiences we are all having, all living beings, including the trees and plants, are having at any moment.
Well,
Just
that's,
like gets
I'm
your
going to say something
mind out
completely
there.
radical and I can't believe it's going to come out of my mouth, but like
Okay, go
my
for it.
worldview is becoming even bigger where it's not even on this planet,
Yes.
but like what it feels like to be in the middle of Jupiter and the ice and the stone, right? And what it feels like to be in all of the other galaxies that they just discovered exist, right? All of it all at
Eh,
once.
Yes.
And we think we're so, it's like when was it Tycho Brahe or was it Galileo who figured out, might have been both, who figured out that the earth goes around the sun, not the other way around, right? They thought at first they thought the earth was the center of the solar system and everything goes
Mhm.
around the earth, but then they realized the earth goes around the sun and then they were killed for it, right? Because they discovered it and they were like, this doesn't line up with our Christian worldview that we are the center of the world. Um, and so I forgot where
I'm not sure what I believe about that. I am like wide open to all the possibilities, including I can't say categorically what shape the planet is, if it's even a planet. I don't know whether we exist in a universe or if it's just an illusion. I don't
Mm.
even know that existence is real.
You are totally deep in the matrix where like
I,
doesn't even exist, right?
yeah,
Seeing doesn't even exist.
our conversation doesn't exist. We're having this discussion in a space that doesn't exist, and we can't possibly be having
Hmm.
it.
It's true, right? I'm in my space talking to a computer screen, and you're in your space talking to a computer screen.
Yes,
We are technically meeting in no man's land,
yes, in a space that does not exist.
in a space that does not exist. Yeah.
Just
Yeah. And so, as Carl Sagan says, so I bumped into somebody who's actually, I was at a bar mitzvah. Oh, did I mention I was raised Jewish to get to start all that out?
oh,
So,
that's great. I became Jewish for a while.
oh,
Not
so
that you actually can, but
no,
I was
you can
I
convert
was
into
Torah
Judaism.
observant for 7 years.
That's, I give you that. There are people, I'm not even Torah observant. Like, I was really grateful that I didn't have to keep kosher. They were my bat mitzvah laws, and my bat mitzvah portion was all about the kosher laws. And we have made
Mhm.
Jews have even made it more complicated with like two dishwashers and two sets of dishes and two refrigerators
To
and two.
ovens and to everything. Yeah,
Yeah, I can't handle that.
just
Um,
being vegetarian is much easier.
sure, yeah. Well, I'm dairy free, so that cuts all that
Helped a
cuts out
lot.
that helps a lot. So Carl Sagan said, right? It would be in his book. So I was at the bar mitzvah, and this girl is going to study extraterrestrial life at Berkeley. This is what she's doing with her summer. She's at Berkeley studying extraterrestrial life, which I think is freaking amazing. So I looked at her and I said, "Have you read Contact by Carl Sagan?" And she said, "No, I've never read Contact by Carl Sagan." I said, "You should go while you're doing this, especially, please go read Contact. Like read Contact in the context of what you're doing." And she's like, "I guess it has to do with extraterrestrial life." I said, "It kind of does." And then I said, "You know what Carl Sagan has to say about extraterrestrial life?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Well, basically, when he was asked, do you think there's life on other planets? He said, well, it would be a great waste of space. There's a lot of space. And to think that we're it would be a great waste of space." And she looked at me and said, "I know who Carl Sagan is. I don't know that quote, and I will read the book."
Life is so much bigger than
So,
we allow it to be. It's
yeah.
easy to get caught up in the images that you're flashed all day long and think this is reality, but it's not.
It's
It's
not.
just one storyline, and it's a very thin storyline, honestly.
And when I was a Christian, I honestly believed that was the only storyline.
Hmm?
So when I had that moment about the Stonewall Bar and I was like, where would Jesus be? As a corporeal being, Jesus can't be in multiple places. He's one man, just like me. I can't be in two places at once unless I'm standing on a state line, right? And then I can. But if I'm not standing on a state line, I can't be in two places at once. So he can't be outside with the police attacking the bar, and he can't be inside with the Jew with the gays. I almost said the Jews, but you know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the label is, right? Is he inside or is he outside? And the answer is obviously on the inside. That's where Jesus is. And if that makes you uncomfortable or it messes with your faith at all, it messed with mine. It messed with mine big much. Not because I was homophobic. Well, yes, because I was homophobic, let's be honest. But also because, like, the book makes it very clear where it stands on that particular issue. And there isn't room for love in the book, which is hypocritical to the book itself.
There's so much contradiction in the book. I listened to a podcast episode where this person was talking about why you might reconsider what Paul says in the New Testament. And I've read the Bible a bunch of times, back to front, front to back, extra biblical text.
Yes.
Studied it. I spent like 25 years. And it culminated in my 7 years of being Torah observant, because I was just like trying to get God to love me one way or the other. Ultimately, that's what you want. You want God to love you. You need an external savior.
That's exactly where I was. Yep.
And so the crux of the matter was that Paul, who's written most of the New Testament, if you read through the New Testament and you read what Paul writes and you read what everybody else writes, and everybody else is not who you think they are, they are arguing against everything he says. Paul will say one thing and somebody else will come along and go, not really, not that.
No.
And Paul will say this over here and they'll be like, no, not that either. And when the book of Revelation, which is the thing that I glommed onto the most, because I was all about the end of the world and the rapture and the whole 9 yards.
Getting the hell out of
here. Getting the hell out of here and being with this being that was going to love me.
Yes.
I realized that Paul is the Antichrist. We're talking about book of Revelation.
Yeah.
It's like
if I could pick a more misogynistic person to represent anything, I think I'll pick Paul, right? But people are like, no, he gave Deborah space and he gave the other people opportunities. And I'm like, Paul?
Oh, he was an asshole.
Told people to go sit down and shut up? That Paul? No.
And the reason he's so confusing to read is because he's all over the place. He keeps changing his mind. And he's trying to be all things to all people. And you just can't. You have to take a stand and say, this is what I stand for.
And it doesn't, I think it doesn't help that he didn't actually know Jesus himself.
Well, he didn't.
No, he didn't. He was too busy trying to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And it also helps to look that he was a Pharisee to begin with, right? He's all about the law. That's where he stands. Follow the law, do the law, follow the rules. And so I was kind of a little Paul-lite, where I was like, I'm going to follow the rules and do everything right? I'm not going to.
But he was making up his own damn rules. That's the big problem. If everybody had just stuck with the basic 10,
you'd be good to go.
Fine.
Well, like I just said with the kosher laws,
613 of them. And
you know what? There's not 613 in the book. In Leviticus, I can tell you, it's only 2 chapters and it's probably 30 verses. There are not 613 laws in there. They've made it.
They were extrapolated out.
Way harder. It's way harder. The only rule about milk and meat has to do with please don't cook the milk in its meat.
Don't put your baby goats in the mother's milk to boil them, and because it's kind of gross.
Exactly.
Hello? And that's how it's worded.
In its mother's milk. That's what it is. And you know what it also says? It says please don't eat crustaceans. Don't eat crustaceans. You know what?
They're like cockroaches of the ocean.
Yeah. Well, what we now know is shrimp are filter feeders, and they excrete right above their mouth parts. So they're constantly bringing in their own poop and putting it back in their bodies. That's what shrimp do. And lobsters. There's a reason for it. What?
And crabs.
And
the whole not mixing
meat
fabric.
and milk. Oh, fabrics. Yes.
It has to do with energy. If you notice, if you wear plastics like polyesters,
Yeah.
it makes you feel differently than if you wear like 100% cotton something.
Hmm.
It's an energy thing. It's
Well, it's
definitely
also,
talking about energy fields.
I think it's a energy fields. I agree with that completely, but it's also practical because if
Mhm.
you attach a thing that's cotton to a thing that's silk, they don't line up the same and they don't wear the same and
Mhm.
their seams aren't the same and it doesn't actually work as a garment.
Or wool and
Hmm.
linen, which is linen is a plant, and wool is a fibrous animal.
Right.
It's fur woven together. Um,
Exactly.
it just doesn't
It doesn't work.
it doesn't work.
It doesn't
Things that
work.
are different aren't the same.
Yeah. And so, I mean, there's a practical reason those are in there from 1500 BC, right? We've moved
Yeah.
a little bit more forward since then. And people would say, well, it was the inspired word of God. And I would say plenty of people are having inspired words all over the place. And it's not it's not necessarily anything special, right? Is Paul any more special because he had this Damascus moment and he became blind and then he saw again? I have fairies come down and talk to me regularly, and I know that sounds bizarre, but that's where I am right now. And I have,
Talk to
I
the
and
unicorns all the time. So.
and I meet with my team regularly, and I've been listening for my team for people, and it's been pretty accurate, right? And people ask me hard questions that Kim Beam doesn't know the answers to.
Mhm.
But I have answers because my team says, I need you to tell him this. Because where this question is coming from comes from this particular heart space. And so, yeah,
And that brings us to
yes.
you offer 2 hour readings for people.
I offer a space where people can come into my Zoom room for 2 hours. I tend to
Gotcha.
give somebody, right? It depends on how many people are in the room. If the room is really an empty room, yeah, you might get a full half an hour. But if the room is a really full room, you better have a VIP ticket because those are the only people who are getting read that day.
It sounds
Yeah,
exciting. So how often do you do these?
I do it at least once a month.
Mhm.
So I have made a general statement because I'm in the growing phase, right? I'm growing. And because I'm in the growing phase, once my Zoom rooms hit a certain number, I am going to bring them out of the Zoom room and start doing live events. I will do it in a hotel. I'll rent out a hotel and I will do it in a hotel and people can come and meet me live. And then if you meet you live and there's something you need healing for, right? There's an opportunity that you'll be able to meet with me individually for specific healing on a thing, right? So I offer healing in the Zoom room, but let's be honest, it's in no space, right? So do people feel it? Like if I here, let me see if I can. Here we go. Okay. Is there some place in your body right now that you would love me to chuck this ball of energy that I just created
Yeah, check it at my heart.
at your heart? Okay. Right there. Right there. Did you feel that? Yeah. So imagine how much more that'll be in person. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it.
So when the Zoom room gets to be big enough, I will take
Mhm.
it out of the Zoom room and I will start doing live events. But for now, it's in a Zoom room. I'm meeting with people. There's a VIP option, and then whoever's in the room. If VIPs will get read, and they will get the majority of the time. So if you're a VIPer and you paid to be in there, you might get a full hour of my time, even if there's other people in the room, because you paid to be in there, right? And then everybody else in the room is going to like pick up the breadcrumbs at the end. And there might be things. The thing that I've also seen in the room that happens with Esther Hicks is I will say something to somebody, and somebody else in the room will be like, "That's mine. I'm stealing that. Like that belongs to me." And so because they're in their energy, the energy gets created, and the energy that I bring and then gets amplified by everybody else in the room, right? That energy that gets created then becomes healing for people with just being in the room. And then how much more powerful will that be in person? And so
Yeah.
that's the goal, is to get out of Zoom and get into a hotel, into a bigger space where I have like a ballroom space to be able to answer questions, and walk around and say, you need healing on your knee. Let me give you healing on your knee. And the other thing that Esther does that I don't subscribe to. I love Esther. I've been to Esther's events. I will go to Esther again. I'm not putting her down in any way, but what's been given to me to do is I have cards with my logo on one side and people fill out their information on the other and they have a question on it. And I will pull a card. And so it doesn't matter where you're seated in the room. Esther only pulls for people who are like right in the front row, right? Doesn't matter where you are in the room. I will pull a card, and wherever you are in the room, if your card falls out of the deck, then I will answer your question because your card fell out of the deck.
I love that.
And so
another thing about being in a space with other human beings that you just cannot duplicate on Zoom is just the energy of being in proximity with other human beings. And it's always different. The people that show up are supposed to be there, and you're supposed to be connected to whoever you end up next to. It's just like all the molecules in the air in the room that you're sitting in. They're where they're supposed to be at any given time. And
science has now proven that you can see somebody's energy field within 3 feet. So if you're in a room with somebody and you're sitting right next to them, your energy bubble is in their energy bubble. And then their energy bubble hits the person in front of them, and you hit the person in front of them, and then they hit the front of and then everybody in the room, even if there's an aisle, your 3 feet and their 3 feet are going to meet in the middle. And so everybody, and that's just science can only see the 3 feet. It's way bigger than 3 feet because twins on other sides of the world can know what's going on with each other.
If you do that exercise where you just sit and focus on where your body ends and the world begins, you are not, there's not like a definite line.
No.
Okay, this is me and that's space. It's the
right.
molecules, just because the way we know energy works.
Yes.
Electrons are a field of energy,
and
they're around a nucleus with protons in it, and they're shells. So they're waves going out around this little thing that exists but doesn't. They're coming to find out. But they connect through energy. So nothing is independent. Everything is always connecting.
And so if we're all in a room together, we're all in the same playing field. We're all in the same field.
We're all in the same energy. We are an organism of itself.
Exactly. So my goal is to I'm starting in Zoom because people need to know who Kim Beam is, and they need to trust her. And they need to say, yeah, when she gives something, it's for real and it's not made up and it's not junk. Like, she really knows what she's talking about and we can trust her. And then once I've built that reputation and that trust, I will then open it up to rooms. And we will do it live. And maybe it'll just be in my town, or maybe I'll do it on like 2 coasts, right? I'll be on the East Coast one month, West Coast next month, right? And I'll do it on the 2 coasts until I get even bigger, and then I can start branching out in different areas. But like, that's where I am right now.
I love this. And I am so honored that you're here now, and this is the beginning, and I just know it's going to grow for you because
thank you.
It's your mission. It's
my mission. And
you switch your light on, and it can't go out in any other way than to keep
I switched my light on. I will say this. I switched my light on and I was shining, right? I was shining. I was in a session with Isabel, who is our mutual person who introduced us. I was in a session with Isabel, and Isabel, in that session, my team came through and they said, we turned your light on. So now the spotlight is on you. You turned your light on and said, I'm willing. And now we've turned the spotlight on you so people will find you. So we'll see what happens.
It's already happening. And people can find you by going to kimbeam.com.
Kim Beam, like Jim Beam, but I don't drink, so it's hilarious, right? I asked my mom, what were you thinking? And she's like, well, I thought everybody would call you Kimberly all the time. And I'm like, who would call me Kimberly? Like, there's so many syllables to that. So I'm Kim Beam, and I'm at kimbeam.com. You can sign up for a reading there. You can sign up to be on my podcast there. You can sign up. You can find my book there. If you want me to come to, I'm doing house events right now. So I'm driving tomorrow well, when this airs, it'll already have happened. But like, I'm driving to Richmond, Virginia tomorrow to do a house party at somebody's house. She's inviting me in. I'm bringing apple cider. I'm bringing mugs to give away. I'm giving my book away. And I'm going to give readings in her house because that's fun. And I'll also give healing if people need healing.
And people can find you on Substack, my new favorite place. I
Yes.
am kimbeam.com. No, I am
Oh,
kimbeam.substack.com. Don't forget the Substack in
yes.
there.
But I am Kim Beam everywhere. I am Kim Beam. If you want to find me, go to I am Kim Beam. Pretend that you are me and just type in I am Kim Beam.
And then she will magically appear for
I
you.
will magically appear on Substack and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok even.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today, Kim. This has been an amazing
I
conversation.
I have loved meeting with you, Jill. You are delightful, and I love the work that you're doing. And I thank you so much for you turning on your light too, because it's not always so easy. It's not always so easy to be brave and say, I'm going to go do this thing that people might make fun of me for, and people aren't going to understand. And like I said, we need people who are alive, and we need people whose lights are turned on, because there is going to be a lot of questions coming. There are a lot of questions coming. And
there are a lot of questions, and people are wanting answers, and
they want answers. And the answers are not easy. They're not easy. Like, I'm sorry there's pain, but are you waking up? Right? Cancer woke me up. Cancer got me out of my rut. You don't always have to have pain to change. I'm changing now without pain. I like it a lot. I like it this way.
It's easier.
It's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to change when you're not in pain. However, I will say, I know you're wrapping up, but I really want to get this in, and that is, right now, in the paradigm that we have on Earth, a lot of people will not change. Most people are comfortable in their status quo until it gets too uncomfortable, and then they have to change. They will go along with just because it's sort of working, right? And in order to get you out of it has to get bad. That's been the way it's been working. It doesn't have to stay that way. And so if you want to look around at your and I want to make better, go for it. It'll save you from having the bottom fall out, and whatever the bottom is for you. But if the bottom falls out, kimbeam.com, come find me. I will hold you while your bottom falls out.
And to learn more about Kim and take advantage of the 2-hour readings, be sure to go VIP. You're going to want it. Go to kimbeam.com, and we will put all these links in the show notes below. Thank you for tuning in with us today. If you have a podcast or you're interested in starting one, be sure to reach out to us at support@heartlifecoach.com. We love to help spiritual entrepreneurs and coaches amplify their voice and monetize their mission, and offer a variety of ways to do this leveraging Substack. Join us for our next episode as we share what others are doing to raise the global frequency. And remember, change begins with you. You have all the power to change the world. Start today and get visible.